Yes, I would say that. I would say it, but both damage privacy and security. I mean, you look at malware as an example, and Android has 47 times more malware than iOS does. Why is that? Well, it's because we've designed iOS in such a way that there's one app store and all of the apps are reviewed prior to going on the store. And so that keeps a lot of this malware stuff out of our ecosystem. And customers have told us very continuously how much they value that. And so we're going to be standing up for the user in the discussions, and we'll see where it goes. I'm optimistic that I think most people looking at security know that security is a major risk, and I think a lot of people increasingly agree that privacy is one of the most important issues of the century, and so I'm optimistic about how it will go.
So we've talked about the impact of technology in our society. The US, France went through very traumatizing event recently. We've seen the spread of misinformation, of conspiracy theory. Of course, and we are in the temple of tech for good and tech as a positive force. How do you see the dark side of the technology?
Well, I think that we all need to understand that technology by itself doesn't want to be good. It doesn't want to be bad either. It's neutral, and whether it's great or not depends on the inventor and the creativity and empathy and passion of the inventor. And so I think that's an important lens to have on technology. We do suffer today from vast disinformation. It's affected the vaccine rates and things like that. We've been affected here in the United States by sort of the stirring of the pot socially and what disinformation has done. And so it's clear that there needs to be something done here. This is not an acceptable state of the world. And as I look at the DSA, there are some parts of it that I think will help this. But I'm not sure that anybody yet has a handle on how to fix it entirely. And I think it deserves more discussion and more debate.
I would like to move on to a question I've picked up in a social feed and social thread since yesterday when we announced the conversation between the two of us. And just before that, I want to go to the environmental commitment from Apple. You've set some very aggressive goals. By 2030, you want to be carbon neutral. How can you reconcile, and it's a question I've seen often, how do you reconcile those very ambitious goals and shipping a new iPhone every year? It's a question in the mind of the people. How do you do that? How can you reconcile very aggressive environmental goals and shipping new products line?
It's a good question. If I back up for a moment, we're carbon neutral as a company today. We achieved this a couple of years ago. What we've done now is expanded our view of what carbon neutral means and said for our supply chain and for usage of our product with the customer, so this total food chain, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030. And so it's a very, very bold objective, far more aggressive than the 2050 type timelines that you'll hear. And so how do we do that? Well, we run Apple on 100% renewable energy. And so we do that today, and we're using our influence to get our suppliers to run their businesses on 100% renewable energy. I'm pleased to tell you that we have over 100 suppliers that have already signed up to do that. And so we like to think of that we can be the ripple in the pond to create greater good. And the other thing that we're really focused on is we've set an objective not to have to remove anything from the earth to make new iPhones. Now, we're not there yet, but if you look at sort of our latest products, 40% of the aluminum in the Mac area is recycled, and 98% of the rare earth minerals are recycled on the iPhone 12. And so we're making enormous progress. And of course, we are using robotics to disassemble older iPhones to be the heart of newer iPhones. And so the trick is to have a closed loop between the selling of new product and the retirement and secondhand markets. And I feel like we've done a great job of that. As it turns out, a great product for a user and a great product for the planet can be one and the same. And that's the objective that we set for ourselves.
As you say, Apple is a huge and very successful company. So you need to lead by example, and you can kickstart a lot of usage. It's what you were mentioning with your supply chain. When I was reading messages on our social pages, a lot of people are saying you need to lead by example. It's true when it comes to working condition across the globe. It's true when it comes for taxes. And when we take taxes, for example, a lot of people are thinking that you're not doing your fair share in terms of taxes. What's your view on that?
Well, here are the facts on taxes. If you look at across the last decade, the most recent decade, our effective rate of tax is 23%, which is about the same as OECD companies and right in the ballpark of what companies pay in Europe. The thing that is different about us is most of our R&D is in the United States. And so we pay relatively more to the U.S., and that has been an area of contention about how we split the pie of this 23%. And as it turns out, I think the OECD, which is headquartered there in Paris, are working vehemently on this, and I think they're going to get to a conclusion that will be good for everybody. And so we've always supported, the OECD deciding on this. We believe that taxes are so essential to providing services for citizens around the world, and we do want to pay our fair share. And I think largely we're paying the total amount that people are talking about, but where it's divided up is sort of the issue. And I hope the OECD concludes and we can all move forward and feel good about it.
I hope so. To move forward, in France, we used an expression for the past year about teenagers, young adults, which is they are a lost generation because of COVID. As the CEO of Apple, what could you say to a young adult, someone who's maybe 18, 19 years old, who's been through so much this year, who's fascinated by tech? What kind of positive message can you bring to him or her?
Well, I would start with, I do not see them personally as a lost generation. I reject the characterization. I think young people that I talk with are very values driven. And I see this in the love they have for the planet. I see this in the way they support human rights for all people. I see it in so many different areas. I see it in what they choose to work on. I was in a developer roundtable in France a couple of months ago on a virtual basis, and there was a company called Too Good to Go that focused on food waste. And so they had identified a issue in society where the restaurants and so forth were throwing away all this food, and at the same time, people were hungry. And so they were attempting to sort of to fix this. I've visited a company virtually called Classly, who is at the heart of providing virtual classrooms to students and parents and teachers and so forth. And so what I see are people identifying problems with society and then putting all of themselves into creating a solution for the problem. And I think these young people will be at the very root of many of the solutions to today's problems.
I do think so too. Like, we founded Brut on the idea that young people were massively engaged and were really driving change. So I absolutely agree. You know, when you think about it, your products encapsulate a vision of society, a vision of the world. We're talking about new generation, about the future of technology. So right now it's the iPhone 12. Let's say what's going to be the iPhone 30, 20 years from now? How is it going to impact our life? How is it going to change, I don't know, mankind? What's exciting for you as the CEO of Apple to develop? I know you're like big on all the health things. So it's many questions, but like, so let's go for the iPhone 30. What will it be looking like?
Well, it'll be better than iPhone 12, and you can count on that. And it will solve more problems for people. At the root of it, what Apple is all about is about making the best products that really enrich people's lives. And we will not work on one that we don't feel like we can do it to meet that mission. And so we only do a few things, and the iPhone is one of those few things that we do. And so you can always count on it getting better and solving more problems for people. And so that's the spot. In terms of what I'm most excited about, I'm excited about so many things. I'm a great believer in the power of technology to help people. And we approach the future with great humility because we know we can't predict it. I'm not one of those people that is going to say I can see 20 years out and 30 years out and tell you what is going to happen. I can't. I really don't believe anyone can. So we approach it with great humility. If you take some examples in Apple's past, we didn't know when we were working on the chip for the iPhone that it would become the heart of the iPad. And we didn't know that it would eventually become the heart of the Mac, as it just did in this past year. We didn't know that. But we kept discovering and we kept pulling the string, and we kept our minds open about where that journey would take us. And it's taken us somewhere that's incredible and that has a great future ahead of it. I get excited about AR. I get excited about AR because I see it as a technology that can enhance life in a broad way. And so we've been working on AR first with our phones and iPads, and later we'll see where that goes in terms of products. But but the key thing is that it can enrich people's lives. I get excited about artificial intelligence and the ability to sort of remove some of the things that keep people down and do work and free up leisure time for people. And I am exceedingly optimistic about the intersection of health and technology. When we started shipping the watch, we did so with thinking about it from a wellness point of view. But we put a heart rate sensor on it, and we quickly were. I was getting tons of emails about people that found out they had heart problems that they didn't know about. And so we started adding more function to the watch, like we put an ECG in the watch. We put the ability to find out if you're in AFib. And I began to get even more notes from people that found out that they had a problem because of this ability to continually monitor themselves. And so I think the idea of continually monitoring the body, much like happens in your car with warning lights and so forth, I think this is a big idea that has a long roadmap ahead of it. And so all of those things make me incredibly optimistic.
So there's many ways you can explore. Do you allow yourself, and I say that because there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, or there's a lot of entrepreneurs watching us, or wannabe entrepreneur. Do you allow yourself to fail trying to develop new products?
I fail daily at something. And yes, we do allow ourselves to fail. We try to fail internally instead of externally because we don't want to involve customers in the failure. But we develop things and subsequently decide not to ship. We begin going down a certain road and sometimes adjust significantly because of the discovery that we make in that process. And so absolutely, failing is a part of life. And it's a